In the name of Almighty Allah, the most merciful, the most beneficent, the most benevolent. Good afternoon and welcome back. This is our second session, and let's begin without any delay. And in our earlier session, we have discussed that how a director can be elected, and then we discussed that how director can seize his office, how can he be declared unqualified, or what are the grounds which can make him ineligible to continue as a director. Now we will move on while discussing that what powers inherently are available to the directors. Ms. Hira, please start the reading for the class.
Sure, sir. What are the powers of directors? The powers of board of directors. The directors can exercise the following powers by a resolution passed at board of directors meeting. That is, to issue shares, to issue debentures or any instrument of redeemable capital, to borrow money otherwise than on debentures, to invest the funds of the company, to make loans, to authorize a contract in which any director is interested, to approve financial statements, to approve bonus to employees.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hira. And actually, you may have, in fact, understood the very fact that since a very pivotal role is assigned to the director under Section 183 of Companies Act 2017, this is why, keeping in view that pivotal and primary role, the director has numerous powers to exercise, and this is why a person who is capable enough to fulfill those responsibilities is only allowed to become a director of a company. To issue shares is point number one you have read. To issue debentures. Debentures are also type of shares, but the return on debentures is a secured return, and or any instrument. The word instrument actually is defined in fact in our law, that is pertaining to the checks, the pay orders, all these documents we call them instruments. So instrument of redeemable capital, the instrument which can be exchanged. These can be shares, these can be pay orders or a check, etc. To borrow money otherwise than on debentures. So he is allowed to borrow money from the banking companies, and giving the company's property as collateral, or as in terms of default, that collateral or that property can be sold out to reclaim or to recover that money. So these were the 3 points. Let me in fact ask Ms. Tehreem to read these 3 points once again. Ms. Tehreem, please.
Yes, sir. Number one, to issue shares. Number two, to issue debentures or any instrument of redeemable capital. Number three, to borrow money otherwise than on debentures.
That's right. So these were the 3 points. Thank you very much, Ms. Tehreem. Now let's take up point number 4 to point number 8. And let me ask one of the participants of our class, Mr. Ali Raza, to share these points with us. Mr. Ali Raza, point number 4, please.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, Ms. Zarmeen.
Sir, I'm really sorry. My connectivity was very.
Okay, no issue at all, Mr. Amin. This is something beyond your control.
Class. I could hear you calling out my name, but
okay, but again, as your voice again dropped, so no issue, Mr. Amin. Keep listening to us carefully, and we are recording this lesson, so you can have the video recording later in order to assimilate this to the optimum manner or revise the same. Okay, so let's see if Mr. Ali Manan can read point number 4 to 8 for the class, please.
To invest the funds of the company, to make loans, to authorize a contract in which any director is interested, to approve financial statements, to approve bonus to employees.
That's right. So let's discuss point number 4 once again, to invest the funds of the company. As you know that companies have different...
Thank you, sir. But sir, it's better now, I guess.
Okay, good. That means, Mr. Mean, I can invite you for reading of certain extracts for the class. Is it so? All right. Okay. So to invest the funds of the company. So this is something interesting. Sometimes there are extra funds available which are not in use. So director has the power, or the board of directors, they are empowered to invest those funds. And interestingly, in all foreign countries, companies like if I quote Pakistani companies like Sui Northern Gas Pipeline Limited, OGDC, Oil and Gas Development Company, etc. There was a same practice that their board of directors, they used to make investments of the funds of the company. But NAB has taken up that matter, and there were certain irregularities. And nowadays, in especially Pakistani companies, most of the public sector companies, now they avoid to make those kind of investments in order to avoid the prosecution or persecution by the NAB authorities. Anyway, to make loans, yes, of course, board of directors can advance loans, and that is the power inherent to them. To authorize a contract in which any director is interested, even board of directors can authorize that kind of contract. To approve financial statement, yes, as you know that earlier on we have read that this is one of the disqualification of a director, or this is one of the ground of disqualification if director is not submitting the financial statements to Securities and Exchange Commission of Pakistan. So in order to submit those financial statements, this is a requirement that these financial statements must be approved by the board of directors. So this is also the part of the duty and the powers inherent to the board of directors. And then the next point is to approve bonus to employees. Of course, bonuses can be advanced to the employees, and this is a power also vests with the director. Now, point number 1 to 8, let's have a quick recap, and let me invite Mr. Ali Manan to do the reading from point number 1 to 8 once again. Mr. Ali Manan, please.
To issue shares. Point number 2, to issue debentures on any instrument of redeemable capital. Point number 3, to borrow money otherwise than on debentures. Point number 4, to invest the funds of the company. Point number 5, to make loans. Point number 6, to authorize a contract in which any director is interested. Point number 7, to approve financial statements. Point number 8, to approve bonus to employees.
That's right. Thank you very much, Mr. Ali Manan. And now let's see that what next points do we have in terms of the powers available to the directors. Point number 9 to 11, these 3 points. Let me invite Mr. Hamdan Khan to do that reading, please. Mr. Hamdan, please. Yes, Mr. Hamdan, can you do the reading for the class, please? All right.
So can you give me a second?
Yeah, Mr. Hamdan. Okay, let's have Miss Aisha this turn. Hamdan, we will get back to you later. Yeah, Mr. Hamdan, are you there?
Yeah.
Okay, please. Point number 9 to 11.
To declare So 1 second. 1 second, sir. All right. So from 11 or from 9?
From 9, please.
All right. To incur capital expenditure or dispose of fixed assets in accordance with the rules, to take obligations under leasing contracts exceeding specified amount, to declare interim dividends.
Right. Okay. Let's talk first. Point number 11. Let's discuss it. To declare interim dividend. Actually, as you know, that normally on quarterly basis, or sometimes biannually, or at times annually, companies offer dividend. Dividend is a type of profit, in fact, which is given to the shareholders. So at times when that dividend actually is declared by the board of directors, and there is a procedure given. For instance, let's have an example of Mizan Bank. And if Mizan Bank has its quarter closed on 30th September 2020, and if I quote the practical example, let's say that OGDC has announced its dividend of ₹2 per share, and the ex date of that dividend is like the ex date for that OGDC's share is 11th of December. And if someone is interested to yield that dividend, that profit, can buy the shares of OGDC until 10th of December. We call it X date. So prior to the X date, that if one buys that share, one can have that dividend. So this is the board of directors' power or responsibility to declare interim dividends, which is given as a profit to the shareholders. Point number 10 is to take obligations under leasing contracts exceeding specified amount. This is again board of directors job, that if there is a leasing contract, for example, there is a building on hire or taken on rent under a leasing contract or tenancy agreement by a certain company, then that is within the powers of the directors, within the purview of the directors, that they can take obligations to that regard. To incur capital expenditure or dispose of fixed assets in accordance with the rules. Now, as you know, that especially the listed companies in PSX, those companies have their assets also, which are in the name of the company. And directors, they have the power to sell off or dispose of those assets. But there are rules that to what extent they can sell off the assets which are owned by a company. So keeping in view those rules, or within the purview of those rules, those assets can be disposed of by the directors. That also include in their power. From point number 1 to 11, if you have any question, please pose it now.
Sir, could you please explain what are debentures?
Well, debentures are types of shares of a company which are secured shares. Let's say that if A owns debentures of a company, and for certain reasons that company goes into liquidation. Liquidation, as you know, liquidation means shutting down that company, closing down that company. So if that company goes into liquidation, then of course while selling off the assets of the company, the liquidation board or the high court will appoint a liquidator. Liquidator is a person appointed by the court who will sell off the assets. Now, after selling off the assets, the amount received will be paid back or paid off to the creditors, to the shareholders, and to the debenture holders. But in sequence, the very first person who will claim that recovery will be the debenture holder. Debentures are types of shares which are secured shares, and in case of liquidity, in case of a liquidation of a company, debenture holders will be paid back first in order to settle their claims. Ms. Zarmeen, I hope this is clear.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Next question, please. Okay, now let's move on to point number 12 to point number 14. We will discuss these few points now. So let me invite Mr. Haider Malik to do the reading, please. I'm afraid he's not there. Miss Aisha Zafar, can you do the reading, please?
Yes, sir. To decide the following: to write off bad debts, advances, and receivables, to write off inventories and other assets of the company, to determine the terms under which a lawsuit may be compromised. Um, Point number 13, to take over a company or acquire a controlling interest in another company. Point 14, any other matter which may be specified.
That's right. Now let's take up point number 12 to decide the following: to write off bad debts. Now, you see, companies, as we have earlier studied, that the loans can be advanced. These are within the powers of the directors or board of directors. Now, let's say a loan is advanced to a company which went into liquidation, and that company does not exist anymore. That is declared insolvent, for instance. And so the debts or loans advanced to that kind of company can called bad debts, and this is within the preview of the powers of directors that they can write off these bad debts or advances which are given, or receivables. I mean, if company owes some is required to receive some money, or some in fact instrument, or some kind of claim from another company or individuals, those can be written off, or that is within the power of the directors. To write off inventories and other assets of the company. So the kind of assets companies own: movable, immovable assets, vehicles, trucks, for example, if that is a kind of company which is in construction business, for example. So the board of directors have the power to sell those assets or write off those assets. To determine the terms under which a lawsuit may be compromised. Let's say there is a suit filed against a company, and instead of contesting that suit in the court of law, the board of directors can decide that we can end up in compromise. Instead of contesting of suit, if the board of directors decide that we should compromise, then of course that compromise can be effected by the board of directors. They have the powers to enter into that compromise. And so these are some of the powers discussed at para number 12. Now, number 13 point is to take over a company or acquire a controlling interest in another company. Yes, as you know that these mergers are very common in companies. And so if a big company intends to acquire a smaller company, as you know that there was a merger of I think Jazz actually purchased the shares of Varid Telecom. So what happened? Moblink, I mean, having its product name Jazz. So Moblink purchased or acquired the controlling interests of Varid Pakistan Limited. So if that decision is supposed to be made, board of directors have the powers for the same. Any other matter which may be specified? Yes, this list is not exhaustive from 1 to 13. If there is anything else which is important the board of directors can specify that in their memorandum of association and articles of association, and on the basis of that, in fact, specification, that matter can also be decided by the board of directors. So these were the points regarding the powers. If there is a question, please ask now. Yes, please.
Sir, can you explain the C part of 12th point?
Yes, Ms. Benail Amir, the C is to determine the terms under which a lawsuit may be compromised. As I said earlier, let's bear in mind a situation in which a suit is filed against a company. Let me quote a practical example. Recently, there was a levy, Levy, or a cess. Let me, in order to explain that, let me write it here. The words relevant, Levy, and there is another word, cess. By the way, if you Google GIDC decision, by Honorable Supreme Court, right? This is a decision delivered by the Honorable Supreme Court, rendered by the Honorable Supreme Court, I think in the month of September this year. In this decision, there was a cess called GIDC, which stands for Gas Infrastructural Development Cess. Companies were responsible, especially fertilizer companies, textile companies, power generation companies, etc. These were the three kind of companies. They were supposed to pay a huge amount of money to in terms of GIDC, and they were not making that payment for long. Matter went to the Honorable Supreme Court, and Supreme Court has directed those companies to make that payment. Now, let's say, let me now revert back to your question, and Ms. Benail Amir's, your question. Now, let's say that this was a situation. Matter is before the Supreme Court, that is a court of law, that is a law matter, and the point was that companies are required to make the payment of cess or levy. It is levy or cess means it is a kind of it is a kind of a payment to be made to the government. So they were responsible to make that payment, but they were not paying that for long. So matter went to the Supreme Court, and now let's see, before the decision was delivered by the Supreme Court, if a company, let's name it Nishat, Nishat Chunia Power Limited, or Fauji Fertilizer, or for that matter, let's name any other company from the sectors like fertilizer, power generation, and sectors like textile. One company, let's say, can go to the court of law stating that please do not give any judgment against us. We intend to compromise, and we intend to decide the matter on the basis of compromise. We are ready to pay, but maybe some reasonable installments can be made, or we may be allowed to defer this payment for next 5 years, and we will start paying it after 5 years. These can be the terms of compromise. Let's look at these two words, Ms. Benail. The one is right here, that is terms and compromise. So the terms of compromise can be discussed, can be determined, and finally, instead of having a decision by the court of law, on the basis of compromise, that matter can be decided. And so this is what this point is all about. And directors or board of directors, they have the powers to compromise on a lawsuit under the given terms which are being negotiated. I hope this point is clear.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You're most welcome. Now let's move on and have the attendance before we proceed with this session. And let me mark the attendance first. Okay, here we go. Yes, Mr. Abdul Rafi Sajid, Mr. Abdul Wahab, Mr. Abdul Wahab,
Present, sir.
Mr. Abdullah Maqsood,
Present, sir.
Ms. Afsha,
Present, sir.
Mr. Ali Manan,
Present, sir.
Mr. Ali Raza,
Present, sir.
Ms. Aisha Zafar,
Present, sir.
Ms. Iman Mujahid, Ms. Iman Mujahid, Ms. Iman Mujahid, can you hear me? Ms. Iman Mujahid, can you hear me? Mr. Umar Amjad,
Present, sir.
Mr. Haider Malik, Mr. Haider Rafiq Malik, Mr. Hassan Iqbal,
Yes, I am here.
Ms. Hira Nadeem,
Present, sir.
Mr. Kamran Shaukat,
Present, sir.
Ms. Minail Amir,
Present, sir.
Mr. Roshan Naeem, Mr. Roshan, Mr. Daniel Bashir,
Present, sir.
Mr. Fazal Aziz,
Present, sir.
Mr. Hamdan Khan,
Present, sir.
Mr. Razaur Rahman,
Present, sir.
Mr. Farid Ahmed,
Present, sir.
Mr. Saad Fawad,
Present, sir.
Mr. Shahjahan Gohar,
Present, sir.
Ms. Fatima Hassan,
Present, sir.
Ms. Tehreem Nadeem,
Present.
Mr. Taimur Idnan, Ms. Zarmeen Qureshi.
Present, sir.
So the members who are not present today are Mr. Abdul Rafi Sajid, Ms. Iman Mujahid, Mr. Haider Rafiq Malik, Mr. Roshan Naeem. Mr. Roshan, there is all, yeah, I can hear you now. Okay. And then comes Mr. Taimur Idnan.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Fatma Hassan, I have marked you present.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Can you wait for 2 minutes? Iman is just joining.
Okay.
She has some connectivity issues.
Okay. So the absentees are Heather Rafiq Malik and Mr. Temur Idnan. They are the one who are absent. Abdul Rafi Sajid is also absent today. So I'll wait for a minute for Miss Iman. If she enters the room, fine. Otherwise, I'll save the attendance. Okay.
Am I present?
Yeah, Mr. Roshan, you're present. Okay, so let's get back and see what is next. The next point, actually, in our first session, we have discussed at length the powers available to the director or board of directors in order to run the affairs of the company. Let's have a quick recap what we have discussed, and just in your own words, yes, Miss Iman Mujahid is there. Right, so I have marked these people present. Rest, the absentees are Temur Idnan, and besides Temur is Mr. Heather Rafiq Malik and Mr. Abdul Rafi. They are the three persons who are not present today. Yes, Ms. Iman, I have marked you present.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so let's move on, and now we will talk about the points we have discussed in our first session, and these points include, if you recall, we have discussed that what is the manner of election of a director. Then we have discussed that what are the circumstances which can disqualify a director, and in this session we have discussed the powers available to the directors. So these were the 3 points we have discussed. Now, would you like to ask any question before I will ask you people to recap our topic of discussion?
Sir,
Ms. Tehreem, please.
can you give an example of point 14?
Yes, example of point 14. Well, any other matter which may be specified. Now, let's say that as I said earlier, that if there is a company that is a Sharia compliant company, and normally companies are not allowed to donate to charitable institutions. But if in memorandum of association, it is specified that this very company can donate to charitable organizations while performing its role, which is known as corporate social responsibility. We use the word CSR. This term stands for CSR. This is the acronym of corporate social responsibility. Now, normally, corporate social responsibility can be performed while doing certain charitable work. And but if this is specifically given that these are the areas of charity, then of course, directors can perform that as well, provided that is specified in their memorandum of association. Got my point?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yes, any other question, please? Always ask questions, because Chinese proverb is a good question is half wisdom. So please pose a good question. Yes, please. Waiting for your question. Ms. Tehreem, please. Is there a question, please?
No, sir.
Okay. Now, let me ask you now to recap what we have discussed. Let me invite first regarding the powers of directors. to talk about Ms. Menail Amir. Yes, Ms. Menail, give your input on the point that is powers of directors.
Yes, sir. Sir, can you please repeat your question?
My question is that what are the powers of directors? Mr. Heather Malik, welcome to the class, but I'm afraid you are late, and after waiting for about 20 minutes for the latecomers, we have just marked the attendance, and I'm afraid to say that I have marked you absent being late. Let's move on. Yes, Ms. Menail, please give it. Please, Ms. Menail, give
Yes, sir.
your input. What have you understood regarding the powers of directors?
So the powers of directors include they can issue shares, they can make loans, and they can declare dividends.
Good.
And sir, I can't remember the others.
Okay.
So they can make financial statements as well. They can issue financial statements, I guess.
That's good. That's good indeed. Mr. Umar
Yes.
Amjad, would you like to give your insight? What do you understand by the powers of the directors? I'm afraid Mr. Umar is not around, perhaps. Let's see if Mr. Kamran Shaukat has something to say. Mr. Kamran Shaukat. Yes, then let's ask Ms. Hira Nadeem. Ms. Hira, would you like to give your input or just recap what we have discussed?
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, Mr. Heather Malik.
Sir, have you marked the attendance?
Yes, I have.
So sad, sir. You have marked me absent today.
Because you were absent.
Sir, I was present.
I'm afraid not.
Sir, basically my internet wasn't working. That's why I wasn't in the class.
So how come we can know that your system isn't working or you have reception or connectivity issue?
Yes, sir, you're right, but
anyway, be in time next time. I waited for about 20 minutes actually for the latecomers, and in the first session as well as in the
sir,
second.
for the first 20 minutes I was in the class, and till 2:20 to 2:30 my internet wasn't working.
You see, as we have decided, if you remember in our face-to-face classes, that we will give 15 to 20 minutes to the latecomers. So we did so. And I called you at least 6 times. So in next time, Mr. Malik, if this happens, you can leave a message to one of your classmates. Like Miss Iman Mujahid was late, or perhaps she had a connectivity issue. So I was just informed and I waited for her until I saved the attendance. But anyway, good luck next time. Okay, so Ms. Hira
Okay, sir.
Nadeem, I want you to give your input and a quick recap what we have discussed in our session.
So in the last session, we
Yes, please. I can't hear you, Ms. Hira. Let's see.
So you are asking about the directors?
Daniel Bashir Saha, welcome to the class. And yes, I'm asking the powers of director. And Mr. Daniel, I want you to.
Sir, I have not taken the last class, but as we have read in other subjects, I can tell about that.
Please do, Mr. Daniel.
So they can share the dividends. They can invest in different companies, launch new projects.
Good.
They can issue the stocks for the company, dividends to get investment in the company.
Good.
And they can manage all the departments in the company. They can fire and hire different people.
Good.
They can develop different groups for different projects.
Good.
They can expand the company. They can.
Good. Very
These
good.
all I remember, sir.
All right. And you see, there are, Mr. Daniel, few other points also that we discussed. And I want you to just quickly browse them. So do this reading. The screen is before you. So could you please read from number 1 to onward, Mr. Daniel?
Yes, sir. To issue shares, to issue debentures or any instrument of redeemable capital, to borrow money otherwise than on debentures, to invest the fund of the company, to make loans, to authorize a contract in which any director is interested,
Yes.
to approve financial statements, to approve bonus to employees, to incur capital expenditure or dispose of fixed asset in accordance with the rules, to take obligations under leasing contracts exceeding specific amount, to declare interim dividends, to decide the following: to A, to write off bad debts, advances and receivables, to write off investors and other assets of the company, to determine the term under which a lawsuit may be compromised, to 13, to take over a company or acquire a controlling interest in another company, any other matter which may be specified.
That's good indeed. And Mr. Daniel, do you think that now this has added further in your knowledge, reading this
Yes, sir,
regarding
it
the
has.
powers?
Yes, sir.
Excellent.
Yes, sir.
Let me share with you a few new words which perhaps were not previously the part of your vocabulary. And those words are debts, for example. The t sound in the word DEBT is silent, and we pronounce it as the b sound actually occurs in boy. That sound is silent, so we pronounce it debts. So write off bad debts. The next word to add in your vocabulary is interim. Interim is, in fact, is something which is for the time being. Interim means for the time being. You can say it is a stopgap arrangement. It is for the time being. Something to do for the time being is interim. So interim is the
Yes, sir.
next word. And Mr. Daniel, I'd like to share another word for you, and that is debentures actually.
Debentures.
Debentures. It is these two, this t sound, if I just specifically mention the very sound, this sound actually, here it is, t sound, that is marked in red. This t sound is sounds like ch, occurs in cheap and which. So debentures, we pronounce it debentures. These are secured, in fact, loans, which are called debentures. The word is, can you repeat for me, please? The word, Mr. Daniel,
Deben-
please say that again.
deben- Debentures.
Debentures, that's right. Say that again, please.
Debentures.
Excellent. So the word is debentures. And now the next word at number 11, Mr. Daniel, can you repeat that, please?
In Sir, I forgot it again.
Let's practice
Interim.
that. Interim. Interim. So it is interim government. You see,
Interim.
prior to the elections,
Yes.
there is a stopgap arrangement, and they are called
Yes, sir.
caretakers.
Yes.
We call them interim government.
Caretaker. Call.
Caretaker or
Interim.
interim government. And what about the last word? This one here?
Debts.
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 Absolutely right. Good, 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 good. Very good. Thank you very much, Mr.
Thank
Daniel, for sharing your valuable input. Now, there are a few more points to discuss. So, these are the powers which directors can exercise, but for that, board of directors specific permission is required. Let me ask Ms. Fatima Hassan to do this reading for the class, please.
Yes, sir.
Please.
The following powers can be exercised by the board with the consent of members in company's general meeting. Number one, to sell, lease, or dispose of comprises of such selling or leasing. Number two, to sell or dispose of the subsidiary of the company. Number three, to give relief or extension of time for the payment of any debt outstanding against any director.
Absolutely right. And these powers actually can only be exercised if board of directors, they give consent for that. So the point number one, let's read that again, Ms. Fatima. Just the point number one, please.
To sell, lease, or dispose of a sizable part of the company unless the main business of the company comprises of such selling or leasing.
Right. So, I mean, even the portion or the sizable part of the company can be sold out by the director. But for that, in fact, he needs prior permission. But the previous powers from 1 to 14 we discussed, the director doesn't need any prior permission by the board of directors. But for these 3 points, to sell or dispose of a subsidiary of the company, to give relief or extension of time for the payment of any debt outstanding against any director. So even, I mean, you see, this is very important. And look at the intention of the legislature, that they really want to safeguard the interests of shareholders and stakeholders. They don't want to unleash them. They don't want to give them unfettered powers. Go ahead, do whatever you feel like. No, no, that's not the case. The directors, they do not have unfettered powers. They do not have unlimited powers. They have limited powers. They can only exercise those powers which are specified, which are given to them under the law, and they cannot violate that. So this is the beauty of this law, and which regulate the corporate sector or the equity sector of the country, which is the backbone of any country. Okay, so let's have questions before we move on to the next topic, please. Yes, please. Would you like to pose any question? All right, it appears that we are comfortable with this chapter. Now, section 183, that deals with the powers of the board. That is, board means board of directors. That is section 183 of Companies Act. And then I have reproduced for you the explanation of the same, sizable part. The expression actually we just used earlier, sizable part, that is also, this expression is also described here for your home reading. And then we have the next question, the duties and liabilities of directors. That is now the next point. Section 204 deals with it. Let me request Ms. Iman Mujahid to do the reading, please. Yes, please. Ms. Iman Mujahid, would you like to do the reading?
Yes, sir.
Yes, please.
Duties of directors. The following are duties of directors. Number one, he shall act in accordance with the articles of the company. He shall act in good faith to promote the objects of the company for the benefit of its members and in the best interest of the company, employees, shareholders, community, and for the protection of environment. He shall discharge his duties with due and reasonable care, skill, and diligence, and shall exercise independent judgment. He shall not involve in situation in which he may have interest that is against the interest of the company. He shall not achieve any undue gain for himself or his relatives, partners, or associates. If he is found guilty of making any undue gain, he shall be liable to pay an amount equal to that gain to the company. He shall not assign his office to anybody.
Absolutely right. Now let's discuss these points. Ms. Iman Mujahid has read for the class one by one. Let's take the first point first, and that is, he shall act in accordance with the articles of the company. Well, this is self-explanatory. And the second one, he shall act in good faith to promote the objects of the company for the benefit of its members. Now, to act in good faith. Good faith actually means that should not have bad intentions. Good faith means to do the things uh, erasing or omitting the bad intentions. So that is what good faith is. So a director is expected to act in good faith, and his main objective must be promotion of the company for the benefit of its members. And you see, the law has emphasized the benefit of the members, because members are the one who have made investment in that company. And if you look at the PSX website, Pakistan Stock Exchange, they use a word, in fact, a vernacular of that word they use, that is Jama Punji. I mean, that is actually the shareholders, they make investments in companies. Those are their hard earned money. That is their money which they have saved for the rainy days. Now, directors are the one who spend their money, who manage their money. So this is why law is very strict, that law wants directors to act in good faith. Their primary objective must be to promote the business of the company. And that promotion or that objective must be achieved for the sake of benefits of its members. So this is the whole paradigm of the law and pertaining to the duties of the directors. And in the best interest of the company, employees, shareholders, community, and for the protection of environment. Now, this word actually, their duty actually is not only limited to the extent of shareholders or the one who have invested in the company or the one who are employed by that company. No, that is not limited to that only. They are also responsible to do good for the community. And this is why, after studying this Companies Act, I have included some of the portion from corporate governance rules. And you will find that in corporate governance rules, the concept of CSR, which is community, uh, that is community's social responsibility, we call it corporate social responsibility, and that corporate social responsibility deals with the community. Actually, community is one that the director must bear in mind. For example, this is for the benefit of the community, that they must undertake projects which are beneficial to the community. They must do certain charitable work for the community on behalf of the company. So that is what corporate social responsibility is all about. Now, the protection of environment is also one area of importance. I mean, it's not only to, you see, to earn profit for the company only, but they have to look at the fact that the business is not causing deterioration for the environment. So protection of environment is also the part of their duty. Now, this second point, I want here, if we have Mr. Umar Amjad with us. Mr. Umar Amjad, can you describe this point number 2 in your own words? I'm afraid Mr. Umar is not around. May I ask you, Ms. Zarmeen Saiba, to read this point for the class and to discuss
Yes,
it
sir.
in your own words, please.
Okay. Okay. He shall act in good faith to promote the objects of the company for the benefits of its members and in the best interest of the company, employees, shareholders, community, and for the protection of environment.
Now,
So
please.
it meant that
So,
yeah,
Ms.
I'm
Zarmeen,
explaining.
for a minute, if you are a director of a company, let's say, so in
Yeah.
that capacity, what do you think, keeping in view point number 2, what practical steps would you like to take in order to fulfill this obligation?
Sir, I'll make sure that whatever project I would undertake, I will have a good intention towards it. that it shouldn't harm any of my employees, my shareholders, or it should, you know, act in best interest of my employees and all the members of the company.
Right. Okay. So what projects would you like to undertake for the protection of environment and community?
Yeah. So, for example, any environment for any environmental project that saves environment from carbon emissions and etc. That saves the environment, basically.
That's right. That's good indeed. Good input. Thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Now, let's take up the next point. He shall discharge his duties with due and reasonable care, skill, and diligence, and shall exercise independent judgment. Now, what do you understand by this point? Let's invite Mr. Fareed Ahmed to talk about this. Mr. Fareed. I'm afraid Mr. Fareed is perhaps not around. Mr. Saad Fawad, would
Sir,
you like?
can I tell?
Yes, Miss Hira, let me check if Mr. Saad Fawad can hear me, and then I'll get back to you. Mr. Saad
Okay,
Fawad.
sir.
Mr. Saad Fawad, can you hear me? Perhaps he's not around. Yes, Miss Hira Nadeem, please. Point number 3.
Yes, sir. So basically in this, it's just saying that the director should basically do his all of duties on time. Like he should not get late on that, and he should do it with all the effort he can, which is required for him to do the work. And also, whenever he's making any judgment, passing any, for example, passing a yes or no in any contract or situation or anything, he should keep it personal reasons and personal biases aside, or any favoritism, anything like that. He should keep it aside, and he should judge it only and only on the basis of the scenario there is.
Very good indeed, especially this independent judgment. You explained it in an excellent manner. So yes, it is that one's personal bias or prejudiceness should not come or should not become the impediment for exercising the powers which are inherent to the director. So this is really an important point. Now let's take up point number 4, and let's see if we have Mr. Ali Raza with us to read point number 4 and discuss it. Mr. Ali Raza. Mr. Saad Fawad, are you there? Mr. Saad Fawad, can you hear me? Mr. Saad, okay. So let's see if we have with us Mr. Raza Rahman. Yes, Mr. Raza.
Yes, sir.
Let's share point number 4. Please read it first.
He shall not involve in a situation in which he may have interest that is against the interest of the company.
All right. So please explain in your own words. You are a director of a company. So how will you take care of this duty?
As a director of company, I should be taking decisions on merit, and I should take fair decisions, not according to my interest, but in the interest of the organization.
Okay, that means, for example, if you are in the board of interviewer as for the appointment of a chief financial officer for your company, and before you is your nephew sitting, so you will just either recuse yourself to conduct that interview. You may say that I'm sorry, since this interviewee is my relative, so I don't want to be the part of this. As you very often have seen that especially the judges of our courts, whenever a matter comes before them, and they have any remote interest even, they recuse. They say, we are sorry, for certain reasons, we are not interested to hear this matter. I can quote an example. It's very regular practice in courts of law that let's say I'm a lawyer today and I am working as adjunct professor for Beacon House National University. Tomorrow, if I'm assigned the role of a judge and the matter pertaining to Beacon House National University comes before me, I may recuse myself, stating that I have had working relationship in the past with BNU, so I prefer to recuse myself. So when you say have interest against, actually we need to look at that the director should perform his duties in the best interest of the company actually, and keeping aside any other vested interests. So this is the point. Thank you very much. And now let's move on and let's see this point number 5. Let's discuss this, and let's have let's see if we have with us Mr. Roshan to discuss this point. Mr. Roshan. I see. Perhaps he's not there. Ms. Afshan Sarfaraz, can you read this point for us?
Yes, sir, sure. He shall not achieve any undue gain for himself or his relatives, partners, of associates. If he is found guilty of making any undue gain, he shall be liable to pay an amount equal to that gain to the company.
Absolutely right. So this is precisely that if he's asked to make some appointment of his employees, he's not supposed to accommodate his relatives for that, or so he has to avoid that. By the way, Ms. Afsha, you have asked me earlier that you are interested in listening to the or having the recorded lectures. Would you prefer to have them sent to you in the Google Classroom, or you want to go and watch my YouTube channel?
Sir, I'll prefer the YouTube channel.
All right. So
can you please, can you please give me that YouTube channel link or name? Can you just mention that? Sorry, I don't have it.
Okay, so this is precisely N. It is. Let me type this for you here. SHAB A full stop KHN Khan. This is Naushad A Khan, right?
Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. So I am going to upload these two lectures, the one we have conducted from 11 to 12:30, and this second one actually, which is being recorded. So you will have these both lectures available for your revision and recap, right?
Thank you, sir.
You're most welcome. Okay, let's move on. And now point number 6 to 8 are the 3 points. And let's see who is with us to discuss this point. Let me see if Mr. Taimur Idnan can do this reading. Mr. Taimur Idnan. Let's ask Mr. Saad Fawad. Mr. Saad, can you do this reading, please? Okay. Ms. Minail Amir, can you do the reading for point number 6 to 8?
Yes, sir. He shall not assign his office to anybody. The commission may further determine the duties and the role of the directors. Any breach of duty or negligence by a director in contravention of the articles or decision of the board may be ratified by the company through a special resolution, and the commission may impose any restriction.
That's right. He shall not assign his office to anybody. What do you understand by this statement, Ms. Minail, please?
So which statement?
He shall not assign his office to anybody.
So it means that the duties which are of the director should not be done by anyone else.
That's right. So he cannot delegate that responsibility to anybody else. That's right. Now, Commission may further determine the duties and the role of the directors. You see, time to time, Pakistan Securities and Exchange Commission of Pakistan, they issue notifications and circulars assigning certain duties to the directors of the companies. So he's supposed to perform those duties as well. Now, next point is any breach of duty or negligence. Ms. Benail, what do you understand by breach of duty?
Sir, I think it means that when the director does not fulfill the duties properly.
Okay. And what do you understand by the word contravention? Would you like to share any synonym of this word for us?
Sir, I don't remember.
Okay, contravention, the synonyms for the contravention are violation and infringement. These are the two words which can be to violate, to infringe. It means that, and the word is contravene actually. So any breach of duty or negligence by a director in contravention of the article. Now, in contravention of the articles means articles of association. So in violation of those articles of association, I mean, if director is not performing his duties, we will say that he is not fulfilling his responsibility. Decision of the board, if board of director has made certain decisions, and so director cannot violate those decisions. And by the way, may be ratified by the company through a special resolution. So that means that if a director has committed any violation of the articles of association, and that violation can be ratified. Look at this word ratify. Let me underline this word for you. Ratify means that that can be accepted, may be ratified by the company through a special resolution. So the company is required to pass a special resolution to ratify that wrong or to ratify that decision. I mean, that decision, let's see that the director has issued loan to someone exceeding the limit which is specified for a director. Let's say that the articles of association specify that up to 1 million rupees a director can advance as loan to someone. Now that director did not bear in mind the limit of 1 million rupees and advanced the loan amounting to 2 million rupees. Now that is though in violation or in contravention of the specified instructions given in articles of association. But once he has committed that wrong, that can be ratified. Board of directors can pass a resolution, one-time exemption with the title one-time exemption. That directors act is exempted for one time, and accordingly the even if the commission, that is Securities and Exchange Commission, can impose any restriction. If, for example, that ratification, once it is intimated to the Securities and Exchange Commission, and SECP is not satisfied with that, that can impose the restriction on that. So this is how this whole operation is being conducted. So far we have discussed certain aspects regarding the director's role. Now there are few liabilities actually we'd like to go through. Let me see if we have with us Mr. Saad Fawad to do this reading. Mr. Saad? Mr. Taimur Idnan, are you there? Mr. Taimur Idnan. Mr. Roshan Naeem. Well, let me ask Ms. Hira Nadeem to do this reading.
Yes, sir. So, liability of directors. The directors can be held liable in the following cases: failure to maintain a register of transfer of shares and debentures, refusal to register a transfer of any shares or debentures, issuing prospectus without complying with any provision of the Act, failure or delay in filing returns, notices, and documents with the registrar, failure to hold meetings, default in complying with the directions of the Commission, holding a meeting of directors in the absence of a quorum, failure to maintain books of accounts and issue annual financial statements, fraudulently issuing a duplicate share certificate, concealing name of creditor or nature and amount or claim of any creditor, refusal to assist registrar in inspection of books of accounts, failure to supply information to auditors, contribution to a political party or for political purpose, grant of loan to directors without approval, failure to disclose interest in a contract or arrangement, false declaration of a company's solvency, and fraudulent conduct of business.
Absolutely right. Fraudulent conduct of business actually is a kind of violation, and if the business which is being conducted by a company, there is any fraud practice, that is again that will incur a liability for that director. False declaration of company's solvency. Just to defraud the creditors, if it is declared that our company is declared solvent, whereas company has adequate assets to pay off the claimants, that is again that makes the director liable. Failure to disclose interest in a contract or arrangement. Let's say that the one of the director has some interest in a company providing IT services, and he did not disclose that I have some financial interest, or there are certain kickbacks which will be paid to me, some sort of commission would be paid to me if our company will enter into a contract with that IT company. So if that disclosure is not made, then again the director is liable or responsible. Grant of loan to directors without approval, as you know that for that prior approval of board of directors is required. Contribution to a political party or for political purpose. So again, even if it is omni, you have heard the word OMNI, omni, and you see the CEO of Omni is nowadays behind the bars, and NAB is prosecuting against him because for some ulterior motives or for some gains, he was doing certain malpractices with the political party or with the politicians. So that can make him liable. Failure to supply information to auditors. As you know that there is independent audit of companies. So if the auditors actually, they inquire some information and director refuses to do the needful, then that makes him liable. Refusal to assist registrar in inspection of books of account. As you know that SECP has its registrars, and if registrar is entrusted to inspect the books, and if that is refused, that is makes him liable. Concealing name of creditor or nature of amount of or claim of any creditor. You see why this 10 point is given here. I mean, it is the responsibility of the director to 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 declare each and every aspect of the company. He cannot conceal. Conceal means he cannot withhold the information which are material information. And you see, this is why on regular basis, companies are required to submit their financial statements. and they do mention that these are our liabilities to pay, these are our debts to pay, these are the amounts which are in terms of bad debts and so on. So they cannot conceal anything. So these are the points. Fraudulently issuing a duplicate share certificate. As you know, when people invest in companies, they are issued certificates, share certificates. So if a director has the power to issue a duplicate, but that element of fraud is there, then he can be held liable for that. Failure to maintain books of accounts and issue annual financial statements. This point is self-explanatory. Holding a meeting of directors in the absence of quorum. As you know that not only memorandum of association and articles of association, but also the corporate governance rules provide that if there are 10 members board of directors, the quorum, the at least 6 members are required to complete the quorum for the meeting. So let's say that even that basic requirement, if not met, that meeting cannot be held, or we cannot say that that was a legal meeting. Default in complying with the direction of the commission. Time to time, Securities and Exchange Commission passes directions. So if there is no compliance of those directions, then of course that can make the director liable. Failure to hold meetings. As you know, there is a legal requirement that these many meetings are required to be held, or there has to be an annual journal meeting. And if there is a failure, that is the liability of the director, or he can be held liable. Failure or delay in filing returns, notices, and documents with the registrar. Time to time, companies are required to submit financial statements, audited accounts, and so on with the registrar of SECP. And if there is a failure, that is what makes the director liable. Issuing prospectus without complying with any provisions of the Act. Actually, prospectus is a document which is issued at the time of floating shares in the market. And but for that, there are certain provisions given which needs to be complied with. And if there is non-compliance of the same, that can make the director liable. Refusal to register a transfer of any share or debenture. Let's say A has sold his shares to B, and now director is required to transfer the same to B. And if there is a refusal for that, that can make him liable. Failure to maintain a register of transfers of shares and debentures. This is again self-explanatory. So for all these points, number 1 to number 17, if there is any question, please do share. Yes, would you like to pose any question? Okay, let's see that how much have we understood. Let's ask Ms. Hira actually first, that in your view, please recap whatever you can in fact recollect quickly, that what are the steps, if not taken, can make a director liable?
Yes, sir. Sir, firstly, obviously, if you said that there is a quorum, for example, at least 6 directors should be present, and if they're not present and the director holds a meeting, so he can be held liable for that. Then if he doesn't issues, because you said that a director is liable to present some tax violations and annual statements and everything like that, and if he does not do that, so he is liable. Then if he does not if he does not register the shares and debentures that are transferred, that he can held liable. Then there are if he does not hold any meetings, it's not about the quorum, but if he doesn't hold any meetings, then he can be held liable for that also. And and there was something related to auditors also. Yes, if he does not provide sufficient information to the auditors, he can be held liable for that. And And I forgot the other one, sir.
Okay, let's see if Miss Iman can recollect that, what you have forgotten. Miss Iman Mujahid. Yes, Miss Iman Mujahid. Let's see if Miss Tahreem Nadeem has something to share.
Yes, sir. The director can also be liable if he did not maintain a register of the transfers of shares, or when he issue a prospectus without complying with the Companies Act, and also when if he issue a fraudulently share certificates, or false or make false claims of the declaration of that the company is going solvent, and to conduct any fraudulent business activity, or grant or he can or if he grant any loan without the approval of the other directors.
Right.
And he or if he I think it there was also something about the political party, that if
Yes.
he
Yeah,
contribute to any
yeah,
political party or purpose.
that's good. That's good indeed. Yes, if he makes a contribution in order to gain some political mileage, then that is not allowed actually under the law. Let's see if we have Mr. Saad Fawad has something to share with the class. Mr. Saad, what makes a director liable, or what acts actually falls within the mischief of law which can make a director liable for that? Mr. Saad.
Yes, sir.
Yes, Mr. Saad. Would you like to just share a few points using your own vocabulary, that what can make a director liable?
Uh, Director liable, sir. I will add, like, for the paying the company debts, maybe. So, however, you can be like personally liable for this.
I see.
Like if the limited company, for example, does not pay its debts and a creditor takes a court action, only the company assets are at risk. So, however, you can be like personally liable for the following.
I see. Mhm. Okay. Well, I will strongly suggest you to go through the content material which is available with you. And I'd like you to remind me on Friday, the next, to begin this class, that you would like to share with us your input on the subject matter. See if Ms. Menail has something to share. Yes, Ms. Menail Amir. Well, let's see if Ms. Fatma Hassan would like to add something. Ms. Fatima Hassan. Ms. Afshan Sarfaraz, would you like to add something? Mr. Roshan Naeem. Ms. Tahreem Nadeem, would you like to add anything?
No, sir. No, I don't remember more points.
All right, this is good indeed. So far, what you have earlier shared. And so section 204 actually deals with the duties of directors. So I'll be leaving this content for you for the home task. And furthermore, you will find that this section actually gave you a general understanding that what is it about, the topic we have quickly shared. And you will find that beside the liability of directors, since directors, they have immense powers in terms of running of the company. So this is why lawmakers, they want to make sure that the directors are in fact having uh, they are made responsible. While they are so powerful, they can perform almost all the acts which can either make a company successful, or which can result into failure of a company, or a company which can end in fiasco, or can go to the dogs or liquidation. Actually, this is the role of directors, to make a company successful or unsuccessful. And this is why they have the law has made them liable also, so that when they are supposed to exercise their powers, they must bear in mind that they can be held responsible for that if they are not exercising their powers in accordance with law, in accordance with articles and memorandum of association, and in accordance with the relevant provisions of the rules specified. So with these words, we'd like to conclude our session. If you have any question, please do share.
Yes, it's not the question related to course material, but you said we would discuss the our midterm exams, the questions that you have received from students.
Yeah, actually, I was making endeavors to do this today, but actually, I was unable to get hold of the printouts of screenshots. On 4th December, the next Friday, I'll have that handy, and we will discuss those points one by one.
Okay, sir, thank you.
You're welcome. And anything else? Anybody who'd like to share? Any other point?
No, sir, that's it, I think.
Okay. So now let me know that if Mr. Saad has anything to add. Mr. Saad, we didn't hear you. If you have anything to say, please.
No, sir. Nothing to add.
Okay, so how do you plan to respond to my question on 4th December, the next session, keeping in view the liabilities and the powers of the directors? I'd like you to give me your understanding on that point, right?
Sure, sir. I will present it on next Friday.
Brilliant. So I will highly appreciate if you spare time and go through these points, because what I felt that perhaps your speakers were not working well, or there was some connectivity issue, and I just felt that you perhaps left little behind. So make sure you have done it well, and you will do it well for the 4th December Friday, right?
Sure, sir. Sure, sir.
So wishing you a safe and positive weekend, and a blessed weekend, I must say, and looking forward to see you on 4th December, the Friday. All the best.
Likewise, sir. Likewise.
Thank you. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz, sir.
Allah Hafiz.